Also, during the holidays, there are maintenance parties on Thursday evenings at 7:30 for anyone who can come then. There's no need to put your name down for the Thursdays, but please note that there won't be one on the 30th of August. But I think there is need to put your name down for the two work-ins, so look at the details. And Dr. Rose, you were going to say something about bringing people to learn the meditation next term.
We would welcome more people who are likely starters for the meditation. That is, people who've been looking for something, because we'd like to have 20, 30 people each term, because it helps the meditators if they can join in the giving of initiations and so on. And we also want to try a different way of approach, some sort of informal study group with question and answer, not just about meditation, but to find out what's in the air and what people are looking for, what they're searching for, especially at a time when a lot of renewed interest in Mr. Uspensky is about. So if you would be thinking over which of your friends are likely to want to come to some informal meetings of that sort, and who are likely to go on and stay, because it's not any good they're coming for a month or two, meditating for a month or two. They should, you should hope that they would meditate for at least a year. I think that's all we said. Now, this afternoon, we would like, there's plenty of room up in front. We won't pounce on you. We'd like today some perfectly ordinary questions about meditation. Take it that none of us is very good. We could all be better from time to time. And we have here two very experienced people. But there are seats here. Nolan Howitt, many of you know, we knew him well before the coming of the meditation in 1960 as a senior member of the SES. And then we got the meditation from the Maharishi, for whom we worked for about 18 months in 1960, January 1960. We went, my wife and I, in autumn 1960, and gave the New York people the meditation, and again came back when we went around the world and checked them the following year. In January, we went to South Africa and Kenya, and then out to India, January 1961, and then in India in June and July, where I met the Shankaracharya for the first time and transferred from the Maharishi to him. And then we came out to New Zealand in the autumn of 61, and you arranged all the people, and the troops with Mr. McLaren there. He came out at his invitation.
Yes, he was my check.
Yes. And so we've been very close ever since that. There are about 200 in your Wellington group at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, then, Jamie Harp was not there when we went the first time in New York, not with the group, but sometime about 63, you joined up with Mr. Ravenek.
Yes.
And once when I was over there, we empowered you to get the initiations. And she's been doing all the looking after, under Mr. Ravenek, of the meditation in New York. And she also very kindly went one time, she was in California, and gave our English-speaking Mexican group, Joy Smith's group, some new meditators, gave them initiations. So she's got plenty of experience. So now, can you, they go next week, so can you think of some way of using them?
That's right. Speak. And I'm sure that everything will be all right. I've never seen so many beautiful roses and gardens in my entire life. It is so beautiful. Them too.
Jamie, the sort of questions we keep asking here fall into two groups, main groups. One, during the first 2 or 3 months, before the meditation has formed part of people's nature, and the questions are how to sit still for half an hour, how to sit with a straight back for half an hour without getting tense, how to sit symmetrically, how to set the mantra running, how to let it go the way it wants without interfering, that sort of question. Have you any dodges that you know in New York that would help here?
I think it's pretty much the same all over. I'm sure in New Zealand, anywhere meditators are. And of course, individually, it's very different. But the main thing seems to be to see what are the priorities for those 15 minutes or half hour. We have so many desires, and usually when we have a desire that we really want something, whether it's kidney pie or New York steak or something, we can give our full attention to it. But when it comes to meditation, we often hold off a little bit over here that isn't quite giving itself to that half hour. So that's the kind of thing we tell people. Hopefully they will see it. And if one persists, I don't know whether Jocelyn Rose is here or not, is she? No. Well, anyway, she gave me a very, very beautiful example of this kind of persistency that one needs. She's a potter, I understand. And she has taken, in the sort of the beginning, it was doing pottery for maybe 2 months and then stopping and then picking it up again. But you have to pick it up again where she left off. And it's the same way with meditation. If you aren't consistent with it, even sometimes can't do the full half hour sometimes, but be sure that you do it consistently and with love for yourself and love for what you're doing, and very gently. And she did that with her pottery. She took a small piece every day, twice a day. And she did more by doing that than doing a whole load at once and trying to, do that kind of thing. So that's...
Do you go along with that, Nolan?
Yes, I do very much. I can speak, I think, more of how I've found that the meditation has come to at this stage now in our dealing with people, and I think taking it as a natural process, and much like Jamie's saying, that after all, the object of meditation is to arrive at that state of self-realization. And I don't think one hopes to go straight into that. And so it seems that one collects these drops little by little, where one is drawn deeper into one's nature. And as these drops, one gets a taste or a note. In some way, one finds the same taste or note externally. And so it seems as though the inner movement and the outer life slowly begin to be merged together.
That's how we find it. Now, would the floor like to respond to this generous treatment?
I'd like to say that, but then 8 times out of 10, it's as if that still goes on, but
Yes.
I'll repeat it for the record, and Dr. Oak. Mr. Wenham Prosser was saying that every time he meditates, he meets this active level full of desires and thoughts and things, but 8 times out of 10, he manages to slip underneath it, and he wonders whether this is whether this is the right way for meditation.
it happens, and it happens by itself. It's a sort of timeless.
It happens by itself, and it brings a
It's
feeling of a
very
timeless
good expression,
state.
to slip underneath it. And it's rather akin to the sermon on the Mount, let not your left hand know what your right hand doeth. You've got to cheat this dominant hemisphere somehow.
It's like doing that. It's like getting away from it, still letting it go on, not fighting.
Yes, Mr. Wenham Prosser said first of all, and repeated then, that in fact this superficial level goes on, but you don't fight it, you just get away from it.
Any other questions?
I think that what was being said just now from our own experience is very much related to the very beginners, because one has noticed over the years, particularly as initiating people, that when they come to this ceremony, usually it's a very, very special occasion. The setting is so very good, and the person comes in, you can tell often they're a little bit nervous, but underneath, those who have the right attitude already seem to be pushed into a deeper part of themselves, so that when they receive the word and they go off to practice it, I've found over the years so many people experience on that day possibly the very best meditation that they ever do have. And why I say it's so important to beginners, because meditation ultimately has to become a very innocent process, and it seems as though having tasted that on the first day, and you go home and the conditions, particularly if there's lots of children and so on, are not going to be like the room where you were initiated. And somehow, so long as we have this idea that we want to get back to that, we never quite get back to the innocent state. And even these moments you were speaking of, somehow one must be quite strong to not want it again in the next moment, because it's the innocent repetition that does carry you into the depths and ultimately into that place where there's only the consciousness of consciousness.
Well, now, if we've got any innocent people here still, it's now that they should speak or forever. No, hold their peace.
Hold their peace, yes.
There, speak up.
And I don't know that one wants to have it the same way again, but one just knows that it must be possible. But it doesn't seem to be without trying.
Miss Ingrid Benning says that asked if Mr. Howitt could say that again or explain it again, because this is very much her experience, that at her initiation that was the best meditation she's ever had, and while she doesn't necessarily seek it. She feels it must be possible to have the same again, even without trying.
Well, it's so many people's experiences that try and recall what you were asked to do when you came for initiation. You were asked to empty your mind, to approach it as if you'd never heard of anything like this before, quite fresh, with an open mind, and just listen to instructions without any preconceived idea. Now, do you come to your half hours like that every day now, after all this time? One should take every half hour as quite new and fresh, as if nothing had ever gone before.
Because we have people who tend to, after they've finished their meditation, say, well, today it was 2. Yesterday I had a 6, you know.
More questions?
I think if I had to label my meditations by success or failure, I would have given up long ago.
That's right. You see, that's, I'm so sorry, Mark. This is the thing. Maharishi used to say that the mantra worked in different rooms in your house. It wasn't always working in the drawing room with spectacular results. It could be working in the cellar, kitchen. It wouldn't produce results that you would notice, but it's always doing something. And we mustn't be discouraged because this dominant hemisphere doesn't think it's doing well enough. Not up to standard. More questions?
Yes, sometimes, what that is, I'm not sure, but the shock of that realization often drives one back into the left hemisphere. One starts thinking about it. Can you offer any help?
Mr. Tew says that in meditation, when the left hemisphere becomes quiet and the mantra becomes dominant, one sometimes gets to a stage where you meet a sort of barrier and you feel there's something you have to give up, but he doesn't know what. But sometimes the shock of this, in fact, puts him back in the left hemisphere and he starts thinking about it.
My
So he
dear
wonders.
Mark, you know, I don't think you ever get out of this left hemisphere, quite frankly. Between you and me, we might have talks about it. But it's quite something when this is entirely stilled. What's needed is that the whole of you, Mark Tew, meditates. It's only that it's out of proportion, that one part of you is doing the whole thing and speaking for the rest of you. So the right way to go about it is with the gunas. If you know that, the active dominant hemisphere is always working with rajas, always active, always moving, on the move the whole time. Anything that's moving must be there. On the other hand, the quiet one is sleepy and damping down and rather like the smoke with which the beekeeper subdues the bees which are actively attacking him in order to be able to handle them safely. That's tamas, the smoke which befuddles one. And one can't meditate from there. Only with the third and different thing, the sattva, which unites both, so that both sides of you and all your nature is all at one, going towards the Atman at the center. Can you really meditate as a whole person? So it's largely a matter of the gunas, and the more people can understand that in the way the Shankaracharya speaks about them, the better for them, I think.
I couldn't add one little bit to that, because when one of my visits to His Holiness's ashram, I asked a similar question about having become quiet and finding what I felt was this barrier. and could he help me? And he just said, you don't want to worry about that. You should pick up the crumbs that you're already getting under the table.
Yes. So now, Maureen, someone asking?
Could you say something more about preparation?
For a half hour? Or?
For the half hour.
We, campaigners of the Maharishi, were put very much against preparing in any way, weren't we? It's the dominant hemisphere wanting to set the stage for itself, most preparations. The thing is really more to take yourself unawares, take yourself as you find yourself at the given moment. So he was very much against what he called mood making. I think that was quite right. But there are ways, the Shankaracharya suggests, of having a little music, like we're going to try this afternoon, taking some deep breaths, even having a cold shower. There are ways of getting rid of the office. Anything to get it out of our daily routine. Helen, is there anything your friend next door would like to say? Any question from
Jamie,
you would like? That's it.
The best preparation seems to be that you are going to meditate. But sometimes in New York City we have a lot of noise, and it's very difficult to get to a sort of a quiet place in themselves. So we do have to sometimes take a few moments just to redirect where we are going now. We're coming from something, going towards something. So in that sense, one can prepare.
And the central thing being that you're going to meet a very important person.
Very, very important.
And you've got
that one didn't go straight in to the private room in one's house. One first of all met the family, one's wife, did the things one had to do, and got those out of the way before one went to the quietest room in the house or one's meditation. It's as if you had just a little preliminary preparation.
Yes. People are, of course, doing very different. Everybody needs some different way in, and very often the same person needs a different way in at different times. I mean, sometimes you will find it necessary to dust the room first before setting to meditate. Sometimes you have to go right into it, dust and all, like I do.
Dr. Rose, do you think that preparation sometimes takes the form of actually preparing ahead that you will be able to meditate at the best possible time? I find this is a thing I'm sometimes bad on, quite unnecessarily. I leave it too late, and then I know that I'm going to be sleepy. I'll do my best, but it won't be the best.
No, in general, the sooner you can meditate, when you've really woken up and got up and dressed, nearer sunrise, the better. And the sooner you can meditate after getting home, before the evening excitements and the cocktails and everything get going, the better. Now, the other set of questions usually come from people who've been meditating for some years, and it's natural that something, in our case, has been going on for 19 years, will have its fluctuations, and there'll be dull periods, and one will perhaps during that time get bad habits creeping in. Are there any remedies that in other parts of the world are used in this way?
Well, it varies with the people. but one has to keep on going and going and going. I was just trying to think of, it seems as one goes on that the Atman is the best teacher, as long as one is persistent. The meditation itself is the best teacher, but one has to meditate. And so there are, of course, times when we feel dry. We get that in New York a lot. Oh, I've had a dry period, and or my heart is heavy. I recently myself went through such a period and had to absolutely, as Dr. Rose said at the meeting, my mind had let in a lot of things that shouldn't be there. So we do fall asleep, but it's the consistency, gentle consistency. And other
One
than
of
that, no
the things that
specifics.
freshens me up is some crisis or difficulty, or a sailing one. Since I hadn't meditated so well in years since Bobby's death, something that absolutely knocks one sideways. It's important to get, don't you think, the mantra linked with disaster, then a sort, or crisis, or something important.
Or just banging a door. Can help. But we certainly had this problem with a lot of our people who have been meditating for a long time, who for years had a very strong tendency to force the mantra in the mind, to sort of try to concentrate it. And I think what helped more people than anything else to overcome that difficulty was to suddenly realize that it was possible to do it. Somehow the feeling just arose among us that this was possible, and this sense of it being possible somehow allowed the heart to believe, and this immediately seemed to allow the mantra to pass through an area that for a long time had held the meditation in a lot of old habits.
This is true, that at any moment one can go with resolution enough straight through to the antechamber of the Atman. One really can. It's just a lack of belief in yourself and a lack of impetus that stops us. The story of the Mary Mahatma under the tree and how the Absolute descended straight away to him illustrates the Church's views on this subject. Now, this question that we are just asking now about what you might call chronic meditators is, I put once in one form to the Shankaracharya and the answer. Inspired the research that led to Raymond Moody's Life After Life. And he has at last produced his own description .
This was in 1975, and Dr. Rose asked, in addition to meditation, is there any special self-applied discipline that you would recommend? Something, for instance, to control the restless and involuntary thoughts and movements at times when rajas comes instead of sattva. And the Shankaracharya replied, at such times there's only one thing to be recommended, and that is love of Atman, love of the self within. Having achieved love for the Atman, all that which is non-Atman, apart from Atman, will be set aside because it will not attract you. And if the worldly things which are non-Atman have lost their attraction, then one will find inner peace, clarity of mind, and restfulness.
Now that finds an extraordinary corroboration from the man, George Ritchie, Dr. George Ritchie, who inspired the research that led to Raymond Moody's Life After Life. And he has at last produced his own description of his particular experience when, as a GI at the age of 20, in a flu epidemic in a large port with thousands of recruits, he died and was certified as dead by the orderly and the doctor. During the 10 minutes which ensued, he had this experience which I'm going to read to you. When he came back into his body, the orderly happened to see him and noticed that his hand had moved and called the doctor again. And the doctor again examined him, certified him as dead, moved the sheet over his face again, and ordered his burial. But the boy, quite against etiquette, experience, or anything, said, "I'm sure his hand moved. Give him an injection of adrenaline into his heart." An injection which was never given at that time for influenza pneumonia, only for starting the heart again after an accident. And this worked, and it was 3 days before he could speak and 14 days before he could walk. But it was the extraordinary impression he gave Moody when he was a lecturer and Moody was a student that started him off on all this research. So from his book, here he is lying above his body, which is covered by a sheet. I wasn't sure when the light in the room began to change. I stared in my astonishment as the brightness increased, coming from nowhere, seeming to shine everywhere at once. This light, I thought, would destroy my eyes in a tenth of a second if it were physical. No, I corrected myself, not the light, he. For now I saw that it was not a light, but a man who had entered the room, or rather a man made out of light. The instant I perceived him, a command formed itself in my mind, "Stand up." The words came from inside me, yet they had an authority my own thoughts never held. I got to my feet, and as I did came the stupendous certainty, you are in the presence of the Son of God. It was a kind of knowing, immediate and complete. Above all, with the same mysterious inner certainty, I knew that this man loved me. Far more even than power, what emanated from this presence was unconditional love. An astonishing love. A love beyond my wildest imagining. This love knew every unlovable thing about me. The quarrels with my stepmother, my explosive temper, the sex thoughts I could never control, every mean, selfish thought and action since the day I was born, and accepted and loved me just the same. When I say he knew everything about me, this was simply an observable fact. For into that room, along with his radiant presence, simultaneously had also entered every episode of my entire life. Everything that had ever happened to me was simply there, in full view, contemporary and current, all seemingly taking place at the moment. People often say the word Paramatman has no meaning, but this is referred to as the Paramatma, which is there, immanent all the time, in everybody. Now back, just to go on a little bit before we meditate.
Sattva certainly leads to the light through which all the energy is made possible. So having acquired some energy and light, one must use it in some activity. Having used energy in activity, one must have tamas to get oneself recharged to begin another day. In the 14th chapter of the Gita, there is the following passage, verses 5 to 8, describing that cycle. Sattva, rajas, and tamas are the aspects of energy which the law of nature brings forth. They fetter the free spirit in all beings. Of these, sattva, being luminous, strong, and invulnerable, binds one by its yearning for happiness and illumination. Rajas, engendered by thirst for and attachment to pleasure, binds the soul through its fondness for activity. But tamas, the product of darkness, stupefies the senses in all embodied beings, imprisoning them in chains of folly, indolence, and lethargy.
Don't put in the next.
And then there was another question. Buddhi, mind, seems to need convincing that we are always in the presence of the Guru and the Paramatman. Is it to be achieved just by remembrance? And the Shankaracharya answered, in the natural setup of creation, there is this unity, which is logical, natural, which is causal. In fact, there are no divisions or separations in the causal realm. But as well on the causal, unity can be achieved on the subtle level. Whenever you have a thought, it will reflect all the light and the words also that you have heard here. They will present themselves in some form, and the Guru will be there. So whatever light, whatever knowledge, whatever promptings come to your heart, even when the Guru is not present in the physical form, you should be able to see that the union is taking place on the subtle level. The union with the Guru or the Paramatman through the knowledge within the individual is also ever present and immanent. Then the physical world is also the creation of the Absolute, and the unity is there too, although it may be difficult to see or comprehend. But nevertheless, be assured that whenever you remember the unity, it becomes immanent. And even if you do not remember, it is still present, though not consciously known.
So shall we meditate for a few moments now, minutes, then have a little music that someone has sent me, an Indian flute solo, and then meditate again. Do you think that sort of music, does it help you or not? It's such an individual thing, music. The best results seem to be had by a few birds of a feather collecting together and having their sort of music. But H.H. uses it to shift the molecules. People come very stuck routine sort of way. He puts a concert on. We've had several of them. What does anybody think? Was it better, the first part of the meditation, than the second part? Hands up those who thought it was better without the music. Now those who thought it was better with. They win. That's good. I told John. He was very moved by that, and he's been meditating much better since he found it. Yes, sir. Any other questions now while you've got them? It's only 12 minutes past 8.
Melides says, how does one go to meet a very important person? Because that idea always makes him feel very unworthy, and he falls to pieces.
Well, may I say that is not thinking of the important person. That's thinking of your own ruddy self. Directly thoughts of yourself substitute themselves for the thought of the very important person you're sunk. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I see this very important person is so full of love that it just is a place one wants to go to. In this, the book, in Moody's book, it talks of this presence, this light as love, and feeling no judgment at all about where he was or anything, just accepted and loved in a way that we don't even know about.
And I don't think you can invent a very important person for the sake of meditation.
No.
I think it's something that gradually grows so that one has this attitude toward someone or something, and then the very thought of them seems to cut through what is normally cluttering up the mind.
And it grows when you realize more and more that every good thing comes from this person, that you have nothing that you've produced in your own life from yourself. Every good thing has come from this Paramatma.
I think that's what the music may have done, because in listening to the music one had to turn out to hear it and get away from this and then turn back, and of course it was that much easier than to meditate.
Well, Paramatman is a very, very big idea, and his world is a very big world, and we have rather parochial ideas about the Paramatma. We've been sent some different kind of music now, belonging also to the Paramatman's world, very, very classical music. Have you got the place? It's a whale in the Arctic, and it's been going 50 million years, I understand. Whereas our meditation's been, in its present form, has been going 25 centuries, and 5,000 years altogether. 50 million years, and they say that that's all one whale. And we've been sent this by our doctor, probably therapeutically, because we sometimes take things too seriously. All right. And the Paramatman has a very keen sense of humor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made that whale sing that song.
Singing it for a very long time. Miss Wright says it's been singing it for a very long time before we heard it, hadn't it? Been singing it for a very long time before we could hear it. Yes,
yes, quite. Human ears been invented in the last 3 or 4 million years.
You spoke of the experience that Morley had when he died for a short period. And I think we spoke of the experience Mr. Spensky had with the light. But Mr. Spensky was alive when he still had to die.
Mr. Hodge says that you gave the example of the experience of a man who died, his experience with the light. But Mr. Uspensky had this experience with the light, but he didn't have to die to have it.
No. A great many of us have had experiences like that without having to die. But what is so important is that we all have to die in the end. And during the moment, the process of death, the Shankaracharya and Mr. Uspensky both say that that moment is very important. The last conscious thought, the last desire of the dying man is very important. And these now enormous number of well-corroborated experiences of people who've been resuscitated, brought back, give one a much better idea of what we might expect and what would be obviously love to welcome the moment of death as union with your true self that you've been in love with all your life. That should guarantee, shouldn't it, and do away with all fear of death.
Should we not try and get that experience more and more while we are alive?
Mr. Hodge says, shouldn't we try to get that experience more and more while we are still alive?
For good heavens, aren't you doing that, huh? Oh, my dear chap. We've been at that ever since we got this house. You were asking?
I'm a bit concerned about this loss of innocence. It's my experience that this innocence grows with meditation.
That's as it should be. Quite right. And so the difficulties diminish with you. That's really one reason why we don't like going into all the difficulties, because they give people ideas. People who don't ordinarily get difficulties at all.
His innocence is said to be the death of the intellect. You know, the moment one stops having an aim, which is what activates the intellect, then you begin to become innocent.
What is this loss of innocence anyway? It's to do with, I am also something. Isn't it, Maureen? Do you remember that? A very dramatic moment with the Shankaracharya. Because when you're going to see this very important person, you should not think, I am also something.
It is rather curious that in one part of that record of the whale,
It says that recording of the whale, he had heard it speeded up about 10 times, and then it sounded just like birds. And he feels that if we heard ourselves a little differently, we might have a... Can't remember how you finished up.
What might happen?
We might have a fresher notion if we heard ourselves a little differently.
Yeah. It is true that organic life, the creation, is run on a matter of frequency, like a great symphony, an enormous orchestra. it is said that at any part of the earth, at any given moment, some bird is singing. Well, holiday time, getting on to 25 past, and I hope you have glorious holidays, and not a little music, and some sunshine, and some sea, and all that. And the next meditation meeting, for those who remain, will be on the 12th, is it? 14th?
It's the 14th of August.
14th of August. Then there won't be one in September.
Nothing in September.
Yeah. See you then.